like to call to order the March 13th, 2024 regular meeting of the Manchester-Shortsville Central School District Board of Education. You can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim, do we know if we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
No. Very good, thank you. So we will move past that. Alright, we'll get right into it. It's not too much to cover tonight, but you never know how that might go, so I think we'll jump right into our presentation. So we have Jacob here with us, so Jacob, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And we'll jump right in and give you the floor.
U.S. maintenance schools. Oh no, we're gonna go. So last month I gave a presentation on facilities, and I cut it a little short because I felt it was going a little long and I needed to get to my senior night. So I'd like to expand a little on that tonight. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about study labs, because I feel it's a very important aspect of the student experience here at Red Jacket. Just things going on. As you can see here, the study labs mostly are in the annex, but fifth period is being held in the auditorium, and this hasn't been updated since last month. And sixth period study labs are now being held in classroom 1, 2, 3, which is near the auditorium, and then learning lab, which I'll get into later. Study labs are vital for students' academic success, but unfortunately, study labs are often loud and unproductive environments at Red Jacket. Students find it's difficult to get work done in the auditorium. This is one of the complaints I've heard a lot. Back when we had 2 periods in the auditorium, once again, we only have 1 now, but in the auditorium, it's very hard to get work done when you don't even have a table in front of you. Something a lot of students have struggled with. The annex also is just not a safe environment. A lot of you may know the annex. It's the building right off of the cafeteria. It has 6 doors, and in the event of a lockdown, our study lab supervisor, Bob Good, would have to go around and lock all 6 doors, and there's windows on 3 out of the 4 walls, so it's a very unsafe environment. So to have average of 40 students in the study lab. And depending on the period, a big issue is a lot of students will sign out. Around 40 to 60% of students sign out to go somewhere else. That's another issue with safety, where we need to keep track of where our students are. Many students wish the learning lab was brought back. Now, what the learning lab was last year in the space shown in the library. There was the learning lab. A teacher would be down there, and it would be kind of, it's hard to define, but it was like a study lab, but it was smaller. The teacher would act as a tutor, and any student who wanted to go down there at any period to make up a test, or if they wanted a quiet environment to learn, or if they needed help from their teacher, they could go down there. Unfortunately, we no longer do that. It's just something a lot of students want to see brought back. And also, the cafeteria annex just is a very uncomfortable environment for students to be working in. The seats don't have backs to them, and the tables weren't meant to have work done on them. They're meant for eating, because it's a cafeteria. Furthermore, students will crowd into inappropriate workspaces. What this essentially means is often what you'll find is that students will leave the study labs and they'll be going to the nurse's office because they want to lay down. I think that's a big issue when you have 5 students in the nurse's office who aren't sick, who don't need the nurse. Someone who is sick comes in and it just doesn't work well. They go to the nurse's office, they go to the counselor's office, the auditorium, and with the auditorium, there's no teacher in there to supervise them. That's at active classrooms. What we'll find is a lot of students will try to go see their teachers while those teachers are trying to instruct their classes. They will also go to teachers' offices. Teachers, when they have downtime, students will often go to them for advice, which is something they can't do. But what we're finding what I saw is there was a lot of students just walking the hallways. There's another student risk because we can't keep track of that now, right? Students, a big issue I think is students aren't allowed to go home when they have consecutive study labs. I know of, just off the top of my head, I can think of 4 students who have 3 study labs in a row in the middle of the day, and they have to stay in those study labs, which just makes them more crowded. And they're not that productive because they have 3 study labs, they don't have that many classes, they don't have that much work to do. So they're just there for nothing. I believe we have about 210 students at Red Jacket High School, right? Roughly 200. So I found it a little concerning. What I did is I went to Mr. Good and I looked at the sign-out sheet, and I found that there were 158 students, 158 sign-outs per day. Every single day, so someone will sign out 158 times to go somewhere else. And how that breaks down is this is where students will go. They often will go to teachers, and the periods they leave the most is 4th. And here are some just potential solutions. Allow students to go home during consecutive study labs. Well, this would, like I had said, this makes study labs less crowded, gives students more freedom to pursue activities outside of school, especially seniors who aren't going to be at the school next year and can help with scholarship or works of that nature. And schedule changes a bit. I believe I talked to someone who was on the RJ Building Council who had said that they really wanted students to be taking, I think it was 6.5 credits, something along those lines. But we saw a lot of students drop. We can offer more electives, more classes to engage students and get them out of the study labs. That would also help us. We can also, what we could be doing is when we need to give a student a study lab, we can schedule it for the morning or the afternoon so that they're able to come in late or leave early. I think we are doing a good job of that. As we saw with the graphs, I believe the reason it kind of is that trend is because students are coming in later and leaving earlier in the day. And yeah, increase the amount of electives offered, and better utilization of structured study halls. And what a structured study hall is I believe Mr. Rappel had one this year, where it's a teacher. It's not necessarily a study hall, but it's a teacher other than Bob Good, and it's in a classroom, and that teacher is acting as a tutor for them. They will coordinate with their teachers and say, hey, you need to get this work done. It's a more engaging environment for students who may be struggling. And then in my opinion, I think we could relocate the study hall to the former learning lab. I understand we have classrooms there, but if we could somehow put those classrooms somewhere else, have a better utilization of that space, we could have that be a permanent study hall. So we can have a place to say, this is where our study hall is. It's in a secure location, it's in a definite location, and it's in a comfortable location for our students. Because when you're in a study hall, your ability to do work is very much dictated by how comfortable you are in that environment. And if we can't actually put it in the former learning lab, another solution could be improving the annex itself in terms of safety and comfortability. I know I had talked about previously during the next capital project, there was a lot of things, one of the things students really want to see is improvements to the cafeteria. Other than that, I believe that is it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jay.
Jacob, between yourself and Paola, I think you guys are setting the bar for the future of this initiative, right, where we want to include your voices. So awesome job. It's not easy. Sometimes, honestly, it's not easy for me to speak to audiences like this size. We do a fantastic job.
And actually, I probably should have asked up there, but did anyone have any questions regarding this?
I have more of a question towards Ryan and Chris as far as some of those suggestions. Are some of those suggestions something that can be implemented before the end of the school year?
Yeah, I think I'd have to spend time with Mrs. Seabury and Mr. George, but I could look at it and just let the board know. It's not, I can't say right now because I don't want to say something that we can't follow through with.
Sure.
Good points, Jacob. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
next, I think, we've got Mr. George to share some information from the high school level.
Just to break down some of those questions, I'm not trying not to say anything. We can't do any study labs or performing learning lab, multiple reasons. Those are both split in half now. They're classrooms. So the teacher classrooms, we run level 1 out of the one to the left, the one to the right. That's where our reading interventionist is housed out of. The reality is like there's only so much space we can have too. So also too, a big thing is when I'm looking at this information, talking about, and I'll get into it with all the data points that I have as well, it's like the increase offered electives. When you go right online, we have our course catalog. Our course catalog for the high school is extremely impressive. I mean, we do only have like 3 for each course, and the course ELA, math, science, social studies, where they're allowed to teach 6 classes. And out of those 6 classes, they're all maxed out. So it's really nice, the different offerings that we have here. And I think that's one of the big, nice pieces that at Red Jacket is that we are here to build capacity around everything that we have. Thinking too, just through some of this stuff too, the improvement of the cafeteria annex. If you look at that space and you look at the space anywhere else, the limitation of classroom usages, that I try to give our teachers the ability to have their space to plan and prep. Because we have teachers that have multiple preps, and preps are teaching like a curriculum. So I consider a prep aligning with a curriculum, and if you have 4 curriculums that you're teaching, that's 4 different classes you're trying to prepare for. And I try to have them have their space to let them plan for their classes, to grade for their classes, and and also there could be 30 kids in a study lab, and I just don't want kids, it's like too much on top of each other. Then they can't get any work done, especially if the library is closed, there's no transitioning. So the annex, if you look at that physical space of it, I mean, it's really conducive to what we have. But to get into the high school presentation, so the objective of this is to really to share out our senior data. And just not our senior data, but where we are and where we're prepping to go. With the overall objective is to make sure that every single student has an opportunity to have a successful life. One thing I talked to all of our secondary students about this year was how competitive it is to get into college, how competitive it is today in today's work field, that we want to make sure that we're preparing every single one of our students as soon as they enter our doors as a 9th grader, ready to go, that they have the skills, they have the knowledge to be competitive against those, and I'm going to say it, in Pittsburgh, in Brighton, out in Webster. So our Red kids from Red Jacket, once they leave here, they're in tip-top shape, ready to go, whatever it might be. It could be a trade, it could be going to college, but they are ready to go and they're ready to compete against anybody else that is out there. So some quick data points. Our senior cohort, we have 61 kids. Out of the 61 kids, 30 female, 31 male, 11 students with a 504 plan, 9 students with an IEP, and here's our graduation projections. 56 kids, they're all set. They're ready to go, June graduation. Yes, some of them are still doing their service learning, but those 56 kids are on track, ready to graduate. 2 are at risk. 1 student is returning for a 5th year. 2 students are deemed chronically absent, and then 1 student is working towards his GED. But 2 data points that really stuck out to me is that this current senior cohort, we do have 19 kids going to the Finger Lakes Technical Center. And when I use the words FLTCC, that's what I'm referring to. I'm trying to get away from the usage of the word BOCES, and this is starting to become a thing we're doing within the Wayne Finger Lakes region, is we want to use the verbiage of FLTCC or the Finger Lakes Technical Center. Also an interesting piece is, last year we had 13 kids apply for our community-based Red Jacket scholarships. This year we have 32. So if you look at this data point, I mean, we're going to be hitting at least 90% graduation come June. Ideally, our at-risk population, our at-risk kids, which is 2, that accumulates for 3.2%. So ideally, we'll be at 93.5% minimally when it comes to June graduation. But I know that's a good number. I know I'm looking at things like that, and just not me, but we, is that, well, what are they doing next? Are they going to college? Are they going to go to a job? Are they ready for a job? What kind of job are they going to do? I mean, what's that going to look like? Really wanted to dig in, really wanted to talk to our students and really get that information. Just not myself or our guidance office trying to collect that information to make sure that all 61 of our students are set, ready to go. So some data points, and this is based off of our kids who are not going to college next year. And our kids who are not going to college next year, 15 of those currently are in their second year of working at FLTCC. What that then tells me is that those students are ready to go and work in HVAC, ready to go to a union job, ready to go to be an electrician. They are set, ready to go, they have skills, ready to be part of the workforce. We have 3 students. Really interesting, because I didn't know one of them actually owns that ski. They sell the skis at that Bloomfield place. They own multiple ski businesses, and I got to learn a couple different things about a couple of our kids I didn't know what their families own. So we have 3 students who are now taking on bigger roles within their family-owned business. 2 students who are talking to me about taking a gap year, and 1 will continue to work at their current job. So that is the group. These are the 3 now that I'm focusing on with our team to make sure that they're set, prepped, ready to go. So, well, how are we going to continue this? What are we going to continue to do at Red Jacket to make sure that our kids are all prepped, ready for college or a career? College is absolutely amazing, but we have a large group of kids that are going to do absolutely phenomenal things who are going to go into the work field right after high school. So one thing we do have in place, and this was also brought to my attention throughout the region, is that, and people are starting to use it, is we do have a rigorous admissions process to get into FLTCC. I mean, when you have a graduating class, or on average right around 60 kids, that you think if you send 20 kids there, that's 1/3 of our population. So 1/3 of our kids are going to go to the technical center, but you want to have, but we have 34 to 40 kids interested in going there. So how are we going to narrow that down? How are we going to make sure that those kids, and there's an expense associated with it, how are we going to make sure that they're the ones that are going to utilize this resource? This is something that's going to really pay off dividends in the long run for them, and we know they're the right people because it's going to be competitive. So we have our process in order to get into FLTCC. And it starts off with, they got to sign off for a tour, they go on the tour, they have to fill out the application, they go through an interviewing process where they literally come in and they interview, which is a really good skill to learn. And then what we do is we come together with the 10th grade team, and based off of a rubric, the 10th grade team, we sit down, we talk, and then we go through the rubric based off all of this information, and that's how we go through and select our students to go to the technical center. Also, another thing is continuing to offer rigorous courses that challenge our students academically. Another thing is structure intervention services to provide cross-curricular support to our students. So, how are we better preparing our students to be prepared to challenge themselves academically? If we want to continue to compete, we need to keep encouraging our students and motivating our students and preparing our students to take our rigorous courses. And when I consider rigorous courses, our higher level courses, and also give them options and give them access. It's important that we have things aligned, we have things in place when it comes to our course selection, is that what meets who we are here at Red Jacket. And one thing that starts with too is, in order to meet graduation requirements, is that they gotta pass the regents. Every kid needs to pass at least 5 regents exams in order to meet graduation requirements. Last year's data shows that in January, 18 students took the January regents. Historically, that's what it commonly looked like. Right around 15 to maybe 20 kids would sit and take a January regents. So I was like, what's the reason for this? One reason why is they didn't offer the science regents. And a lot of that was because the lab-based piece, that students weren't getting the labs done. And that was one big thing that we moved forward with this year, is that we actually offered the earth science regents. And then our numbers for regents for this past year is at 47. It's because now we're offering all of the regents that are available in January. And a big number to look at too is, think about it, we had 18 kids take it last year, we had 29 kids pass the Regents this year. Freshmen, now another big thing is, how do we prepare our kids and give them access or the ability to take these rigorous classes? How do we give them the opportunity to take more electives that are out there? Well, the thing is, had to cut out pre-algebra, had to cut out foundations of science. And the rationale behind that is that they were the entry-level classes, and what they started to do was they were homogeneously grouping our kids, our most at-risk kids, where we were confined by our schedule. One of the things with our schedule is when you only have 3 core teachers, you can only offer classes at so many times. And when you start to have this group working together, all of a sudden you start to look at the data is that then they don't have the options of taking these electives or taking these more challenging classes, or to be able to have the option to go to FLTCC is because what they're trying to do is they're just trying to graduate. They're just trying to meet the basic needs. And it all started once there was a freshman, it was recognized quickly, is that you have classes like the pre-algebra, the foundations of science, they had to go. And they had to go, and what they get replaced with is they get replaced with Regents-based classes. They get replaced with algebra, or ideally living environment, or earth science. Another thing that we did this past year was we hired an interventionist. Additionally, new courses of algebra, geometry, connections, in particular topics of earth science. So now the way that these classes align is, I just don't want to call them like safety net classes, but say now we're challenging all of our students now to take 2 Regents classes come June. What happens if they don't pass? Well, we have the option of summer school, but also what do we have in-house to help support our students? And that's where algebra, geometry, connections, where the ideas, our students who didn't pass the Regents in algebra, they're placed in algebra, geometry, connections, work algebra first semester, take the January Regents. Particular topics of earth science, it's a lab-based class. Ideally for all of our kids who didn't pass earth science, what they do is they work on their lab minutes and they sit and they take the January Regents.
Is that who the interventionist is working with?
Nope, our intervention delivers all direct reading instruction. And I'll get to that in 1 second. And the last one, and this is like a personal belief of mine when it comes to equity, is the student voice through the course selection process. And our school counselor this year worked extremely hard to make sure that she captured the voice of every single one of our students. What did our students want to take? That was the big thing. It's a shared decision-making piece where the teachers do have their recommendations. We do have our data points based off of pass and fail and what level they're at. But also, the most important piece is if someone wants to get challenged, if someone wants to take something that could be out of their comfort zone, how can we support them and how can we encourage them to do so? And a big thing is, and I'm a big believer in this too, is that research truly shows that if you take an AP or a college level class, which is our Gemini, you are more likely than your peers to attend college and graduate. And I show this piece because these are what, in 2024, this is in our course catalog, this is what we're offering at Red Jacket High School next year for APs and for Gemini. And if you start looking at the data points with this from 2021-22 to next year, you see that bar consistently rising. That's the route, that's the challenge, that's where we want to continue to go. And going off of Amy's point, well, what does our interventionist do? Well, what she does is she delivers direct reading instruction. She just doesn't do that, but she oversees all of our assessments. So she runs our reading assessments. And this year she's going to be implementing her second one coming up in spring. But right now, currently, she just implemented the STAR reading program. How this came to be was back in 2023, we gave it was the first one in years, we gave the iReady assessment as our reading assessment. Those scores came back and then we identified a need to have a true reading interventionist. So in the first year this year with her, we piloted strategic reading. The reality is strategic reading is what I've known and what I've brought here from my past experience. What it is, it's a credit-bearing class that really targets our students who need reading interventions where they can earn a half a credit but also work on their reading skills. Sitting down, working with her, looking through our STAR assessment, what we did was we designed for moving into next year is what is our reading intervention process now going to look like moving forward now that we've had a year to live and learn and grow together. So now moving into next year, we're going to be doing more of a test out model. She's going to have 6 different instructional periods throughout the 8-period day, but she can structure things. So on an A and B day in a study lab, she can pose students. Second period on either A or B day, she can pose students. So she can stretch that out over those 8 periods so she can reach more kids. And ideally, the way she wants to run it too is, when I say test and test out, she'll have kids with similar needs. So then she can design then the instruction based off of that group, continue to assess them, and once they meet that proficiency level, she can exit them out and then bring in more students.
Is that what I already, they were talking about?
We're gonna,
Star.
so we're gonna do the STAR one more time to see how it is, and then we'll move forward with either the STAR or the iReady. The problem is, so we did iReady in the past, and I shared this yesterday with my staff, is that that test can take about an hour and a half. STAR takes, I think, right around 40 minutes. So we can get the STAR done in 1 period. The kids are more likely to be focused on it. Also, we saw patterns of kids not giving their full effort when they were given the iReady just because of the length of the test. Another thing too is, well, we're talking about our APs, our Geminis. We get talking about our at-risk students. The thing too is, what about our 80% of our population? Well, that is access to diverse after-school programs, organizations, and clubs. I mean, so we have the Gain Straight Alliance now that's brand new. You'll see the list of different extracurricular activities offered here. Our robotics club, table tennis. We also have chess. We also have Dungeons and Dragons. The thing is, it's about how can we engage all of our students? How do we keep all of them here at Red Jacket wanting to be here? How can we find something for everybody so everybody feels part of our community? The other thing is our vast amount of elective options in the course catalog. I mean, when you look at what we offer for art between wood burning and senior portfolio, it's quite impressive. Now also having a full-time tech teacher who can offer true tech classes like buildings and materials, having an outstanding business teacher who also runs our skill streaming classes. We have an abundance of electives. If the technical center is not for you, if college is not for you, then we have things in-house that help support and provide classes for all of our kids. And the last thing that I saw and just wanted to end on is this, and this is what I think of who we are. This is our culture. This is Red Jacket, is that nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I am possible. And you see this person climbing these steps, and you see, yes, I did it. Come June, when the kids walk the stage, it's a very emotional time because it's a time to celebrate all the hard work. And moving forward continuously, it's about how can we continue to push and encourage and motivate all of our kids to challenge themselves so they're always prepared and ready for that next step in life. And that is once they leave the high school or Red Jacket Central School District, Manchester-Shortsville Central School District. Any questions?
Yeah, on we were focusing on I love the new academic direction that you're going. Are you doing something at the 8th grade level in preparation for the harder classes as a freshman for the math and science?
That was my question.
So that's in collaboration with Terry. So Terry does run the middle school. She does, but there are 2 options. So it's either living environment for the accelerated science piece or algebra for the 8th grade piece. There has been talk, because I know right now local districts, they do offer 4 credit-bearing classes at the 8th grade level. So that was something we had conversations about, but that is nothing, just to be fully transparent, that is not something we're looking at doing next year. Because I know our students can take either DDP in 8th grade, they can take studio art, because you gotta get that fine art elective in order to meet graduation requirements. They can do that at the 8th grade level, then which gets them that much more prepared where then they can take their Geminis when they're junior year, or their APs their junior year.
Couple more here.
Can I
Yep,
piggyback
go
on
ahead.
that question? So will there be, Brian, do you think opportunities for additional labs? Like for somebody, like, for like a math, that it could be a challenge for them? Like coming from 8th grade to 9th grade, that they might need that additional like math lab?
So right now, we already have it carved out, there'll be 3 different periods, so that's 6 different opportunities for students to take a math lab. But the way that it works is that's 3 times where we're looking at, all right, well, when you start getting into scheduling in high school, is that, and I'm gonna use Jacob as an example. Jacob wants to take AP Physics, Gemini, Chem, I don't know how many different of these higher level classes where it's like, you can't fit everything in. And you want to do the best that you can, and that's what the power of a phone call, and like Jake, talk to the parent, talk to Jake, just laying it out there. Like, these are our options, these are our opportunities, and sometimes you do get handcuffed based on just what you have. And that's where having options, and that goes back to student voice, you give it to them and let them choose what they can do. But the thing too is, I know I say small, but it's like that really everywhere. Like anywhere you go to, even at the college level, and you only have so much time, you can only get so much in. And that is just one of the things. Like, we have a lot of students who want to challenge themselves, so it's about how can we build something or give them access to as many classes that they want.
On the trades, when you have the walkthroughs with the students, is it possible to offer the same thing for the parents, so the parents understand what the kids are going to be doing and going to, or
They
the
do.
buy-in? They do?
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
I have a question about that too, the FLTCC, with the rigorous process to get in it. And right now, we currently have 1/3 of our students there. What happens to the kids that wanted to go there? I mean, are you getting any repercussions? Because
Those are very tough conversations
Yeah.
that I personally have, and that's my responsibility as a building principal, to have those very tough conversations with the kids. But I'm also like, we have a student, I mean, you look at like the makeup of some of the students, you're just very upfront and honest. Like, you're taking all these different classes, you're doing all these extracurriculars, you're playing these, like, you're doing this, you're gonna be going to Cortland next year, you're gonna be going to Brockport. I want the trades, I want our students that are going to FLTCC, I wanna make sure that all of our kids have a skill or have something, like they're prepped, ready to go once they leave this building. I think that's very important to me. It's not myself, but my team.
Plus the classes are pretty loaded over there.
Yes, and it's very competitive to get into some of the programs over there.
is there a failure rate? Do we have kids that end up, during the course of the year, by the middle of the first semester?
They start reaching out to me in October, myself and the counselor, giving us a heads up of the failure rate going through this process this year, 0. Nobody. I mean, they're all superstars over there, and I love going over there.
One last question. With the example of a kid having 3 study periods,
Mhm.
we've got all these additional classes. How can you, I mean, I can understand it as a senior and going, leaving school early to
Yep.
work. But is there a way we can encourage more of those study halls?
So, Matt, you'll only see that with our seniors. You won't see that
So
with our.
it's a senior issue.
It's a senior issue, and the reality is we have 3 social studies teachers who teach 3 pods. And our 3 pods, one of the 3 is AP, second is ICT, the third one is Gen, or just a general ed class. And so sometimes kids have to go based off of what their IEP says, have to go based off of being in the AP class, and then you have the other one. And the way that they are is first period, last period, 6th period. So we try to have them structured where we don't run into multiple study labs. And that's why we encourage all of our kids to have full schedules, not to have these big gaps, because they come to me like, I want to have early release. No, you can't early release. Because you can't go home and come back. Like, that's not part of our policy. Our policy is that you're supposed to have full schedules, plus also don't drop classes, that is, you see the couple study halls in a row, it's very rare. And the only reason why is because of a document that's confining that student or pushing that student to take that class at that certain period of time.
Just to speak for the benefit of the board, I've been taking those irony diagnostics since I was in this building, and they're possibly the most hated thing. I don't know of any students who think they're an adequate tool in evaluation. And I know last year, there was an audible groan when they said they were taking testing. The STAR program was probably one of the most dramatic increases in quality of an educational program I've seen. I very much enjoyed it. I think it definitely has benefits.
I think a lot of schools are moving away from iReady.
I think that's really good feedback, because if you say I ready in my household. But I also think when you are asking students to do something, I completely agree. Like 2 days worth of iReady, they're disengaged by the second day, so you're not getting their very best. Versus one class designated, and you might have a learner who might need additional time, but it has a different connotation. So I'm happy to see we're trying things.
I know, I really appreciate all of the stuff you put together. Thank you. I've spoken with Chris about, hopefully at some point bringing some agricultural classes to Red Jacket, like some of our neighboring classes, and, I'm hopeful that that's something that can happen in the future. You know, I think that can really keep some of our kids engaged who are really going down that path.
Yep. We do have a pretty cool fishing and wildlife class, but outside of that, you're right, we do also have a greenhouse, and our school counselor actually, she was an agriculturalist. That was her
Yeah.
background before school counseling. I don't know how she made that jump, but we do have that, and she's been cleaning that up, getting that prepped.
Yeah.
So we do have different resources available to us.
And remind me, I want to ask you something about the FLTCC. I think I said something about it. Program for next year, is there an opportunity for students to actually study at FLTCC?
So FLTCC, the way it works is it provides 4 credits. 2 of them could be, well, you can use all 4 of them for elective credits, or you can use 2 of those for either a science or a math, which are traditionally embedded into all of the curriculums for the programs.
Right, I mean, like, so my son scored really well on whatever test they give to seniors and juniors in his trade. And there apparently is a course right at FLCC that they can take
Yep.
in their senior year, so,
Yep.
I mean, that might just be a conversation for you and I.
Yeah, let's have that conversation. But they also do offer, which is.
I didn't even realize
test.
that.
So you can take, for a CDOS credential, you can they offer the Skills USA test, which will be a compensatory option for over the global or the US. You only have to pass 4 regions if you go that route, and FLTCC uses that route. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we got one more presentation. You're up, Tim. Mr. George, if you have to depart us to go help with the.
Yeah, I'll be right back
music
as soon as
event.
that stops.
Yep, well,
Oh, no, you're good. I just keep.
School budget update number 3. Actually, I'll wait for Amy. I can wait for Amy, I'll be quick.
I think, Tim, you can get rolling.
Okay.
We can fill her in.
Yeah.
Is that, you guys okay with that? We can fill Amy in on 10 minutes.
not sure what happened to the numbers, but budget calendar, tax cap, rollover budget, tax rates change.
All number ones.
Yep, all the most important thing. Fiscal, obviously, third time in a row, we've talked about the board goal for fiscal, continuing the budget calendar. We're getting close, I believe it's not next Monday, the following Monday. Petitions will be available from the Board of Education clerk, or district clerk, Kim Brown, for anybody interested in running for the board. We got to publish our first legal notice. Actually, that's now April 14th, will be our budget adoption and presentation. Property tax report card submission. We might be a little, I think it's due that day, so I should probably have it ready tonight, I guess. Petitions due to the district clerk by 5 p.m. And the budget must be completed by April 30th of this year. Budget calendar, continued copies of the proposed budget made available to everybody on May 1st. And on May 8th will be our budget hearing, which will be a quick turnaround from our April 24th board meeting. And March 14th is the deadline for mailing budget notices for a May 21st community vote, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the high school auditorium foyer. Tax cap, the tax levy limit is a little bit over 8,311,000. We could go up by 4.27%, which means we could increase the tax levy by $340,388, as we talked about in the previous presentations. We are not going to be needing to go out anywhere near that 4.27 as we continue to go through these next couple years. That money will, partial of that money will roll over, and we'll see where we stand in a couple of years. Next year or the following year, in terms of how close to the tax cap we need to consider. 24-25, the budget, we've had a lot of items have firmed up since, even though it was a short time since the last presentation. I know we have an executive session to talk about a tentative agreement we have. So that tentative agreement with one of our bargaining units gives us solid numbers for salaries and benefits. All of the 90% of the pieces are now in place. We just got our Waiting for Lakes BOCES request about 10 days ago, so I'm starting to go through those, and that is, BOCES is being about $3 to $3.5 million of our budget. And a lot of those programs had very large increases, so we are hoping that we'll stay right around that 2.9% budget increase, $647,000. But BOCES services are something that might be a little bit out of our control, as well as continue Chris, Dr. Will O'Brien, and myself starting to look at more professional development opportunities we would like to bring through BOCES, so we'll continue to have those conversations. But other than the BOCES budget, almost all the rest of it is in place. The revenues have all stayed the same. As we talked about earlier, March 31st is when the state budget is supposed to be approved. Good Friday is right around there. Easter holiday is right around there. They're already taking the last week of March off, and they've already scheduled the first 10 days of April. So they've made it quite clear that it'll be at least the first week of April before they start to hammer out the items they need to reach an agreement. We're hoping that they can reach an agreement sometime in April. So before that budget hearing on May 8th, we are not approving, or before we approve the budget actually on April 24th, that we don't have to approve a budget without knowing how much state aid we're going to receive. All that being considered, without the tax levy, if the tax levy was the same, about $189,718 shortfall right now, and would be 2.38. If the BOCES budget comes in a little higher than we anticipate, we have to go up a little bit higher. We will probably use a couple more reserves or some fund balance to try to stay as close to that 2.38 as we can. Tax rate change, we've gone over all of it. I just added with the 24-25. If we went out at the 2.38, that would bring us back up to 20.26. That's assuming there's no assessment changes. So last year we were anticipating it being right around 21, and we're at 19.79. So depending on assessments and reavals, that number will probably be lower than that 20.26. But even if it did go up to 20.26, that's still a 26% decrease in the tax rate since 14-15. The April meeting, especially since we have a lot more time before the April meeting, the budget presentation will be a lot more nuts and bolts. So anything specific that we're looking to talk about that night, make sure we talk to Chris, and then next year we'll, even though, because this one kind of seems similar to last month's, we have a new idea on how we're going to present it next year as well. I just wanted to mention that. Talking about back to the expenditures, majority of that 2.9% increase is just the cost of doing business. Okay, we heard the board loud and clear that the agreement we reached, that we wanted to reach certain parameters and salaries. We came to an agreement, so both sides are hopefully relatively happy, and that is anytime salaries are 70-75% of any budget, so those, just that cost of doing business, are going to raise the budget just no matter where we are. As well as we've talked many times about the health insurance increases. Hopefully we'll get over the large, not just here, but through the Flash Consortium. Still we have large high costs from COVID-related experiences, and hopefully that will start to flatline, and we will not have to see the large health insurance increases we've seen. But we've met, as I mentioned before, the three of us met with all the principals. We've met with all of the departments, other than we still have to meet with transportation in the coming week. And we've had very good conversations about what everybody needs, and we've had our want list and are looking to hopefully be able to add those in the future. As we mentioned before, just taking on the positions that were previously funded by the ARP grant, American Rescue Plan grant. We know that those positions are very important to us, but other than that, majority of our increase this year is just cost of doing business as a school district. And now I'll get to any questions, but I wanted to go back to that because I forgot to speak on that.
Tim, with the property values, is the school budget based on the assessments that are already established, or the new assessments once they're locked in June 1st from the town? Which is it does it fall back a year, or does it?
I think they have to know ours by March, so it's what they currently are. Like, Kim, you get the tax roll right around
March.
before June, yes, so.
Okay, so the big bump in assessments that's going on now, we're not going to see that till next year.
Well, I think we did see a little bit last year because that's partly why our tax rate went down, yep.
That's why it went down.
Okay.
Because large increases in assessments make the tax rate go down
Right.
because it's the same amount of money. Like the tax levy is what we get, no matter what the assessments are, so. And that's why it's oftentimes tough to compare even neighboring towns when you have waterfront property. I mean, we all know as a teacher in North Roads, you have both ends. You have waterfront property and you have 25 people living in a trailer. So it's tough to compare and contrast neighboring districts like that.
The other line with the additional revenues, or miscellaneous revenues.
Yeah.
What would the miscellaneous revenues be? An example of a source. What would that be?
Some sources there are just selling of the buses, selling of scrap metal, any fees we collect. trying to think what the largest miscellaneous revenue, that wouldn't be one of these categories. One of them is, the largest is by far, BoCES, when they have, BoCES has a school year, they are not allowed to have fund balance at the end of the year. So if their calculations are far adrift than what they should have been, like we've been getting probably $250,000 back in refunds the next school year from them having to balance their budget. So 23 schools all getting 250,000 is quite a bit. So that is the large driver of that miscellaneous revenue. I can look up to, I'm blanking on what the other major ones was, but it's any revenues that would not be classified there. If tuition could be another one in there.
Out of district, yeah.
Yeah, out of district.
Oh, the 57,000 for pilots, just offhand, just
Yeah.
hitting you right here. Do you recall what that breakdown was between the interest and the pilots? How much did that pilot actually for Leonard's?
Oh, that's all pilots right there.
That's all, so that.
Not just Leonard's, though. We've had a small one for many years, the railroad.
Okay.
It's based on tonnage. So we literally don't know how much we make until May for that one, but it's been between 5,500 and 6,500. It's based on tonnage of the railroad.
Okay.
So the rest of it is Leonard's.
Okay.
No, I take that back. There is interest in there because Leonard's is about 45,000. So
But that decreases.
combined, it's about 51 or 52,000 is the pilots.
And next year but that decreases 10% every year for the next 10 years, right, pilot?
No, pilots are a set amount for 10 years, usually. I don't even know if we've seen the document yet. Yeah, but a couple years ago, we had another pilot, they actually overpaid. They had a 10-year contract. After 5 years, they figured out that they would have been better off paying
That
the
depreciation.
taxes.
Yeah.
So, but that was 10 years, the same amount. The only one that's different is the railroad because it's based on tonnage. It's not based on a tax.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
And just a reminder to the board and the community that Tim and I will also be doing a couple of community presentations at the end of March so that Tim can get out and we can talk about some of the budget impact for the community. So we'll be doing Rotary at the end of March. We'll be doing a town hall that's focused on that. So those dates will be shared out front and they'll be shared with the community so if people want to attend those events.
Great job, Tim. Thank you. And, you're a great steward of this process. We certainly appreciate that. All right, we'll move along here. The next item up, per usual, is approval of our minutes from the February 14th regular meeting. We're gonna go ahead with that.
I'm ready.
Give me just a second. Let's take a look.
I thought you were asking already. I was
No,
like,
no,
yes.
no. Don't worry. I'll read. Okay. The board hereby. Hold on. The board hereby accepts the minutes of the February 14th, 2024 Board of Education regular meeting as presented.
Motion.
A motion from Lisa and a second from Matt. Thank you very much. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Kim, you all good there?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. All right, so that takes care of that. Next one up is personnel. Several things to consider here. First of which is you've got an addendum at your seat. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, you're welcome to take a moment to do that. Obviously, we try not to, but in the time the packet comes out, between then and now, there's, it seems like there's always opportunities for things to get added or changed. So, if anyone has any questions, we can direct them to Kim. A moment here, I guess. So, anyway, okay. So with respect to personnel, we typically have been handling that for the last number of meetings as a consent agenda. The point of the consent agenda is really for expediency for regular items. They're typically routine, especially in this case with personnel, there's only a certain amount of discussion that can be had. A lot of stuff is confidential. However, what I do want to make sure of is that we never use that as a tool to jam things through, and that folks get a chance to, you know, have the say that they need to. So, again, of course, limited to the limitations of the personnel piece of it. So before we go into that, I guess I'll just ask if anyone has a need to remove anything from the consent agenda before I read the motion.
I'm good.
Okay.
I wanted to, move that we remove C1 from the agenda.
So we have a motion to remove item C1 from the consent agenda. For what it's worth, if we remove anything from the consent agenda, it will be voted on immediately following the consent agenda, whatever remains in the consent agenda. If I have a second for that.
I'll second that.
Second, okay.
Say,
So,
wait, what was it? Oh.
so a motion by Lisa to remove item
No,
C1.
Amy.
Or, I'm sorry, motion by, sorry. Lisa. Motion by Amy to remove item C1, seconded by Matt.
Okay.
So I'll ask the board, we'll go ahead and vote on that. So all in favor? Do we have, sorry, do we have discussion?
Yes, since this is dealing with a personal issue, should this be voted on after our executive session?
I mean, we can take a vote to go into executive session, but I will tell you, my suggestion is, you have the information through previous executive sessions, so if you really, really feel there's something that hasn't been addressed yet, I mean, it's up to this group, right? I mean, I'm a facilitator in a lot of ways, so
Yep.
you tell me if that's what you need.
No, I was just bringing it up.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, anything else? Otherwise, we'll vote on the motion to remove that item from the consent. Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, hold on. I feel like this is robotic. So, with respect to removing item C1 from the consent agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I've got 4 in favor. Any opposed? Aye. 3 opposed, the motion carries. Item C1 will be removed from the consent agenda. Okay, thank you very much. Going forward, at this point, I will read the resolution for our consent agenda. So, the board hereby accepts, and so what remains in is everything that was previously in the packet, plus the addendum, minus C1, just to be clear. Board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the following personnel report as per the consensus agenda. Can I get a motion for that? Lisa, thank you very much. And a second. Chelsea, thank you. Any discussion? Again? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. So now we will move to item C1 from personnel that has been removed from the consent agenda. And let me, okay. The board hereby approves the appointment of Jennifer Knack as varsity girls softball coach for the 2023 to 2024 school year, step 5 salary per the RJFA negotiated contract agreement. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Motion, Lisa. Second. Get a second from Barb. Thank you very much. Any discussion within the parameters of this item? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
What do you
Kim,
think,
do you
all in
need-
favor of what?
Sorry, item C1,
Yeah.
right? That's the motion on the floor right now. So, all in favor of this appointment?
Did you get that? Kim?
No.
So raise your hand, aye.
Yeah.
In favor? Aye. Any opposed? 2 opposed? And 1 abstention. Okay. So the motion carries.
I got that.
All right. Very good. Thank you, guys. Bit of gyration there, but I understand. It's part of the deal. All right. With that, we will keep moving through our agenda for the day. And actually, hold on, before we do that, I want to just take a moment, because the other part of consent agenda was we said as a group that we wanted to make sure that if we've got folks who are being appointed to positions within that personnel report, that we try to take a moment to acknowledge those folks. And I was going to add here, we've got a couple of retirements here, which we also want to acknowledge. in the interest of the board trying to recognize as many positive things in this district as possible, I think we should do that. So I want to just take a moment here, even though we've already voted. And you guys may have to help me out because, Rod, I recognize, I think there's an appointment in there for a coach. Is it softball?
Yep.
Correct?
Modified.
Yep.
Modified.
So I want to thank you very much for stepping up tonight.
And Jason Quentin.
And Jason, thank you very much. Probably wasn't as well prepared for that as I should have been, but thank you guys very much. And thank you for joining us. And before we move forward from this, I have our two retirements you may have seen in there. Mr. Mike Roddenberry, who started with Red Jacket in 2000, so almost 24 years as a building maintenance mechanic, and that's a lot of commitment to Red Jacket. He's retiring this year, and we really, really appreciate his service. And then also Mr. Rick Yale, who is a PE teacher, has also held roles as athletic director and senior class advisor, been with us since 2008, and also served in a variety of coaching positions. I just give you a quick round of applause. It's always fun to see the longevity of folks, you know. I think that means a lot, and more we can encourage that, it's great for the district. So, all right, very good. At this point, we will move forward and on to our CPSE report, CSE and CPSE. So let me go ahead and read our resolution, and then we can handle any questions as needed. Okay, so the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the CSE and CPSE recommendations. Of course, we've got the whole board back. Can I get a motion for that? Chelsea, motion, thank you. And Scott, second. Thank you very much. Any discussion, questions? Got Karen here. It's always
Wait till next month, you're gonna have 60 plus from just this month alone. This will be.
Sounds like we're good to go. And we'll go ahead and take a vote to approve those recommendations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And that brings us to reports and correspondence. And before I turn it over to the superintendent, we have our claims auditor report. It's in your packet. So, Kim, any questions on the claims auditor report? Comments, discussion? Okay. I don't have to do anything with that one, right? All right, you got it? If you have any questions, Tim, Superintendent Bernard, let me know. Awesome. With that, I will turn it over to Superintendent Bernard for his report.
Great, thank you. So tonight, just a couple of updates. If you're here in attendance on the side table, you see my monthly community update is here. If you come to board meetings, you always get it a little bit in advance. That'll be out to the public either tomorrow or Friday. All the board members have one. There's extra copies for folks that are in attendance. That'll go out digitally at the end of the week. Much of that is updating on the branding, which I'm going to get to in a moment, but I also wanted to celebrate some successes we've had in the district over the last couple of weeks or since the last meeting. The first being that we've had going to have two 100-day celebrations. The first was our elementary school celebrated their first completion of 100 days in February, and tomorrow our senior class is reaching a milestone, and they will be within 100 days of graduation tomorrow, and they're celebrating with a pizza party tomorrow afternoon. So seniors are a step closer, and after tomorrow we'll be into double-digit days left. So the other celebration is that we've talked about as a district wanting to value, honor, and appreciate the folks that do the very most important things that we have, which is supporting our students. And so you'll see today was the first share that we did, where we're going to start sharing via social media a highlight of one staff member through each week that has just been someone that we know is constantly doing the right thing all the time. Not someone that we're saying did this big thing in this moment, but just someone that we can celebrate every day. So we had the first one today, so if you've got a chance to look at our social media, that's out there. Another big celebration and thank you is to our PTSA and our elementary building. So Ms. Stephanie Hudson is here, Mr. McCarthy is here. And the Family Matters Night that just happened this last Saturday, for those folks who were able to attend, I came with my family. Such a terrific event. Thank you for putting that on for us, Mr. McCarthy and your building council for putting that on. And it goes beyond just those two groups, right? Like we have like the baskets and all of those donations that were a part of that night. And the celebration that took place, the number of people that were there across our district really shows, again, the value of our community and our school district working together, and just such a special night, and I appreciate the work. I can't imagine the work that went into that. And I did pay dividends by getting a pie in the face, so did Mr. McCarthy, so did Mrs. Seabury, and so did Officer Potter. If you haven't seen those, I'm sure they're all over social media. They'll haunt me for the rest of my life. So, but thank you again to those groups. I know the conversation around rebranding has been a large topic in our district and in our community. As I've shared in the past, we established our rebranding committee in January. That's made up of students, Jacob being one, staff members, parents, alumni, board members. We have two board members who are on that group. The goal of this team is to distribute information, gather information, and reflect on that information. The first example of that was the survey that was shared in February. On March 7th, the committee came together and started to review that information, and we'll start outlining what next steps are based on that initial survey. We've continued to talk about, as a group, as a district, about the importance of getting and maintaining feedback with multiple stakeholders, from students to alumni to community members. And if you look in my note, we had the farthest reach back that we were able to find was a graduate of the class of 1963 who filled out the survey. So it's pretty powerful to see that there's that connection, right? And we know that in this change, and that's why it's important that we've taken the time. And I know to our students, I want to give a special shout out, particularly to our seniors, because they've really been managing this for the last 2 years, and I know they're ready for us to start to make a move. But I appreciate the community involvement. We had over 700 people who took part in that survey, and it's going to tell us a lot about what our next step will be, which we'll be sharing as soon as we have all that information gathered. A couple important dates. I'd like to use this opportunity to remind us of things that are coming up to prepare for. We had our second service learning fair tonight at 5 o'clock. It was in the high school cafeteria. Tomorrow night we have our spring athletic parent meeting. It's crazy to think that we're already full swing. The team started practicing on Monday. It's been amazing weather for those outdoor teams. I don't know how long it's going to last, but we got a little window. So spring athletic parent meeting is tomorrow night at 5:30 in our auditorium. Reminder to everybody that the 15th is a superintendent's conference day, so there's no school for students. I actually had an elementary student pass me in the hallway 2 days ago and say, "Thank you for Friday." And I'm like, oh, that's what it is. So a teacher has yet to say thank you, but the student said thank you for Friday. Inside, yes. Yeah. Reminder that March 19th is an early release day for our elementary only for parent-teacher conferences. And then we have some great events coming up from our music department. As a big reminder, March 21st is elementary music in our schools. And then March 27th is high school music in our schools. Also, we have a Board of Education work session that evening. Reminder, spring break to everybody. We've tried to post this and share this multiple times. It has unique start and end times. We're starting on March 29th, which is not out of the ordinary, but we're ending on April 8th. Is the last day of the break, so students return on April 9th, and that is based on the guidance for our region around the eclipse that is expected to hit in our location on April 8th. And then the last update is that, just a reminder that our next board meeting was moved to April 24th, and that'll be at 6 p.m., and that was changed from the original April 10th meeting. We're not having both. We have just moved the April 10th meeting to the 24th. And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Lots of great stuff happening. I know some of you, the Family Matters event is geared more towards the younger kids, but I know there are other things PTSA and others do in the upper, targeting the upper grades, but what an amazing event. I was there with my kids, and a lot of you there either helping to run it or attending. It's something special, I think, for kind of a small school, right? But to see that many people turn out with that many kind of fun activities and kids really engaged in families, it's awesome. So
Number of years it's gone on too and sustained. It's just amazing.
It is wonderful.
to be able to see all the things that were going on versus going into each additional room. So it's really, really well done.
Thank you, Stephanie, and all the others who are part of PTSA there.
Yeah, I
I
know
see
that's a
you in
lot
the
of
lead
work.
there all the time, so great work. Okay, great. So financial reports, in your packet, the claims auditor report, I'm sorry, the financial report, Appendix E, and the treasurer's report, Appendix F. Kind of routine stuff, but are there any questions on those two? If not, Kim, I'm gonna go ahead and accept those on behalf of the board. I'm getting the hang of this. Okay, and now we'll move to Appendix G. So this is with respect to a seeker for related to capital improvements. So, the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the seeker resolution as stated below. And you've got the verbiage of the full resolution in there.
I'm changing the date. I had the wrong date on the bottom.
Okay. There's a date that says March 8th. Today is, oh, 2023, okay.
Good change.
So we'll update, so that change will be incorporated into this, resolution. So I'll just restate this. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the seeker resolution as stated below. Can I get a motion for that?
Motion.
From Lisa, thank you. A second from Scott. Any, yeah,
Discussion.
yeah.
Okay, is the seeker for the playground work that's going on, or the capital project's done, so why would you need a seeker for?
The seeker is for the capital outlay for next year, the one that's in the budget, the $100,000 outlay.
So it's a hedge.
So this is the seeker for that.
So basically, you do a seeker every year?
Yes, for the $100,000 capital outlay, yes, sir. It has to be in March for the May vote. Yep.
Any other? Good. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And holiday, Appendix H. We're accumulating new holidays all the time. Always for good reason, I'm sure. Okay. The board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve a paid holiday on April 8th, 2024 for all 12-month employees.
Motion.
Motion Lisa, and the second from Chelsea. Thank you very much. Any questions about? Yep, okay, very good.
Just to help clarify for everybody who's in attendance and listening, that it's not going to be a reoccurring holiday. It's based on the fact that we have this once in a lifetime, literally once in a lifetime circumstance in which the health department has made it clear and the county has made it clear that it's in the best interest that we don't have folks out on roads unnecessarily.
I think most districts have that
Yep.
off.
All Wayne Finger Lakes, the
Yep.
entire Wayne Finger Lakes, and I know most of the Will County has too.
And when I first started saying that, actually, I was thinking of something different, a recent discussion about a holiday that's being added, and I realized, yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
This
I have a
is
question.
just truing us up for a holiday that was slightly unclear.
I have a
It's kind of
slightly
one-off.
related question to that. I saw the library is handing out the eclipse glasses. Is there, or do we know that, I know just in my district that all of the students, I think through the alumni foundation are getting eclipse glasses. Do we know
We
if
don't currently have anything, I don't believe, planned, but I can talk to principals and see if there's any, if there was a plan, I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
just think it's
been-
something to think about, because, I know a lot of
Yeah.
kids will just be staring up at that.
Right.
May still anyway, but,
Or some education on why not do that at a minimum, if anyone's confused.
yeah, I think there'd be plenty of organizations who would be willing to fund that, we just.
I can look.
ask for that. What?
Okay, so can I, sorry, we still need to vote on this. right? So, we have a motion and a second, and this is with respect to approving this holiday for this one-time occurrence. So, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to, I just wanted to.
No, you're fine.
I'll look at it.
Yeah.
I can look at it. You can do it.
If I don't say it, I'll forget.
Yeah,
so.
very good, okay. All right, and one more that is calendar related, so as per usual, we're gonna go ahead and approve the calendar for next school year. So the board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the 2024 to 2025 school calendar as presented. Can I get a motion, please? Matt, thank you very much. And a
Glad to see
second.
Christmas is a 2 week.
Sorry, hold on, can I get a second really quick, and then all the discussion in the world. Scott, thank you. Scott, a second from Scott, thank you. Okay, what now?
I'm saying I'm glad to see Christmas vacation is a 2 week vacation. It should be a 2 week vacation every year so people have time to travel, but I don't negotiate.
This
So.
past Christmas vacation was a little shorter than normal. It was on the shorter side of what we typically. It weeks longer, okay. All right, so you have the calendar in here. Is there any other questions, you guys? I think the team's done a great job of identifying the important items on there, so. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We're all set there. Thank you. And,
Oh, wait, one more thing on the calendar I did want to point out. We have, as a group, as a leadership team, as a district, heard the community's challenges regarding the half-days. And so we've made an adjustment. You'll see that one in particular, the one in January, which used to be a K-12 half-day, is now just going to be for the secondary students because our elementary students are not impacted by the Regency sale. So, and then we had some other half days that were on here for professional development, the letters trainings, that was much necessary for our team, that will not be on there next year. So, understanding as a parent myself, there's a lot of challenges with those half days. There's times where we need to have them, 'cause it's the only time we can have professional development, but we've heard the feedback and adjust.
will we get that professional development in other areas, in other ways?
Yeah, it's different though, because we don't need to offer it to everybody at the same time as we're doing now, because we're only doing small pockets of PD for that letters training. Now we're doing everybody at once, so it was easier to just say, we're gonna do half days. So now we'll just be training new staff, so we'll probably just start getting the subs.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, continuing new business, we have a new scholarship approval. Board hereby accepts the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the formation of the following new scholarship account to benefit high school students, and that would be the Timothy and Elaine Benjamin Scholarship. If I could get a motion for that from Matt and a second from Amy. Any discussion or questions? You've got the details in your packet. Love to see new opportunities being added so that more and more of our kids can take advantage. That's fantastic. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Very good. And with that, I'm gonna make sure I just say it all the way I should so that we're official here. We're gonna move to, the board is gonna move into executive session. So, the resolution is as such, the board hereby enters executive session in accordance to the open meeting law at 7:20 p.m. to discuss collective negotiations with the RJFA pursuant to the Taylor Law and to discuss the employment of a particular employee. Can I get a motion, please? Motion by Lisa, second from Chelsea. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. So we'll now move into executive session. Thank you very much to everyone who joined.